I'm here today with an absolute legend of martial arts. It's our first international kickboxing life story. It's with Bobby, the Jackhammer Campbell. Okay, Bobby's a 10 times world professional champion, amazing martial artist, super guy. And Bobby, we're thrilled to have you here on the first international kickboxing life stories.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. So Bobby, we're gonna take it right back, like way back in the day, okay? We're gonna stir up some emotional shit here today for you. So before martial arts, your childhood, where did it all begin for you? Family life, school life?
So my parents actually, they got divorced when I was in second grade, and pretty rough. My mother left me and my brother, and my father had to raise us. So definitely a rough upbringing. And the divorce wasn't very nice. So it was a very rough divorce. It happened when I was in second grade. And yeah, and I gotta be honest, the cops knew me by first name because I was in and out of the cop cars every day, just with problems with my parents. It was just a nightmare.
What part of New York you from originally?
From New York, always from New York.
Slap bang in the center, the Big Apple.
Born and raised. Well, off of New York, Long Island. But yeah, sure. Born and raised, that's it.
Wow, and have you got any siblings, any brothers, any sisters?
I have one brother, and then I have a couple stepsisters and brothers.
And where do you sit, youngest, oldest?
I am the youngest, so I'm 4 years younger than my brother. Yeah.
Cool. So school life, obviously, like your parents splitting up, that would have had an effect on you. Did it have an effect on your school life as well?
It had an effect on everything I did. So, and this probably get intertwined with the story that you probably the question you get asked next. But so in an elementary school, my father was driving a one bench car, so it has one bench. It was my father driving, I'm in the middle, and then my older brother on one side. And we were in front of the elementary school, and the guy that was dating my mom at the time, who was real young, a young guy, had to be like 20 years old. He was landscaping across the street, and so now we're in the car. My father's yelling. They're yelling back and forth. Not my mom's boyfriend, her friend's friend came over. And you gotta remember, I'm in second grade, so I don't remember how old I am. I gotta be 8 years old, something like that. So now, my father's my superhero, that's it. He's my hero, he's my everything. So the guy comes over, and they start wrestling. So my dad's in the car and they're wrestling. The guy gets one arm free and punches my dad in the face. Bang! My dad's glasses goes off his face, goes flying. My dad leaves, he leaves, they both call the cops. But I would never forget that moment for the rest of my life. That's the moment that I think about every time I step in the ring, still to this day.
That's your motivation? No way.
That's my motivation. You gotta remember, as a kid, first off, you never seen anyone get a black eye. Now you get to see your dad have a black eye. So it was such a moment that I could go back. I'm almost 40 years old, and I go back to that moment and relive every single time for that moment. And the guy who punched my dad in the face was like a little guy. It wasn't even that big of a guy. And it was just, my dad had a black eye. I never seen a black eye before. It was, that moment haunts me, that's for sure.
And was your dad a fighter?
My dad was not a fighter.
Okay.
No. But, for whatever reasons, because there was a lot of cops always involved. My dad had custody of us, so he didn't want to lose custody of us, which I do appreciate. Now that I'm older, I wish my dad would kick that guy's ass.
Have you still got this guy's name written in your little black book?
I do. And the funniest thing is, I had a client one time bring up the guy's name, and I just turned red. And the guy was like, "What?" And I'm like, "How do you know that guy?" And I just got so angry. And the guy's like, "I'm not friends with him." I'm like, "All right, good."
So, as by nature, as a young child, before martial arts, before fighting, obviously got in your blood. Were you a scrapper?
Yeah. I didn't get into a lot of fist fights, but I was always because my parents had such a bad divorce, there was always fist fights. There's always fist fights involved. So there was always problems. When I was in junior high, my mom's boyfriend at the time, she drove past and I was with my friends and I threw a baseball bat at his car and he tried to run me over and they got detected there and they arrested him for that. But yeah, like, so it was always, I wasn't really a big street fighter, but I was a very, very angry person, I would say.
So I'm guessing to harness this anger and to channel this anger, Dad's brought you to martial arts.
100%. 100%.
And which martial arts did you find first?
So I started Kempo Karate. Well, we started before my parents was divorced. I started Kempo Karate when I was 4 years old. And my brother was older than me. He's 4 years older than me. So he was like, you know, a purple belt when I first started. So I kind of was like, I was always in my brother's shadows, you know. He was always the bigger brother doing everything better than me. You know how it is.
And what was your earliest memory of martial arts?
Oh, I definitely remember. I used to do, I was in karate tournaments as purple belt. So I started when I was 4. I was definitely in karate tournaments when I was 6 years old. And I sucked. I sucked. I was not
like
good
most of us. You would say that you'd have to say if you started at 4 years old that you were born for this. So one way or another, you were going to find your path in martial arts.
I was going to find a path, and it was not in the forms, that's for sure.
A lot of forms back in the day, katas, traditional karate.
Yeah, it was a lot of traditional karate, a lot of point fighting. And then as I got older, like, you know, in the juniors class, I guess the juniors class is 7 to 11, I started becoming like a badass. The teachers just know badass. I would never win a point fighting tournament, but I always kick the crap out of everyone in the class, but I'd never win a point fighting tournament because I wasn't good at that, but I was good at beating everyone up though. Wow.
And can you remember your first instructor's name?
Tommy Gargiola, and he wound up being my kickboxing instructor throughout my whole amateur career to the beginning of my pro career.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you built up a rapport and a connection with the guy from the start.
Yeah, right from the jump street. Yeah.
So when you started, what was your motivation? Was it the belts? Was it these points, tournament trophies that you couldn't get your hands on? Or did you know about the full contact and the ring sports? So
my karate instructor, he started doing full contact kickboxing. So I was like, this is so cool. And then one of the main instructors was getting ready to do his first kickboxing match. So I was like, get ready. Couldn't wait to watch it. I was 15 years old. And then my instructor called me the day before the fight and said, hey, do you want to fight? So I was like, oh yeah, I'll fight. And he asked me how much I weighed. Yeah, I'm 15 years old. I have no clue. So I'm like 140 pounds. I weighed 120, 140. So we get to the fight and I weigh in, I'm 120 pounds. And I'm 15 and the guy they want me to fight is 140 and he's 16. So they go, we can't match him up, but we have a 14-year-old who's 125 pounds. So I'm like, okay, great, I'll fight him. And then I did my first fight on 1 day's notice and I never realized what it was to get punched in the face. Because I wore my 3rd-degree black belt and I thought I was a badass. I came down to that ring. The bell rang, that kid punched me, I wanted to cry. I thought he had bricks in his gloves. I wanted to cry. I wound up winning the decision, but yeah, it was painful. But I learned a lot. I learned that I had no clue what I was doing. That's what I learned.
So what was your first feeling getting out of the ring? I want to do it again, or whoa, what was that all about?
I want to do it again right away. And then my second feeling was not the same. My second feeling was, I was still 15 years old and I fought a 21-year-old my second fight who weighed 120 pounds. And he punched me in the nose in the first round and I covered up and turned to the side and went back to the corner after the first round. I said, no more. I don't want to do this anymore. It was a big difference. It was I got hit by a man, and getting hit by a man I never experienced that before.
Yeah. And that was full contact as well?
That was full contact as well. And since that day, that's when I realized I'm like, I gotta be a fighter because clearly I suck. Clearly I can't fight for my life.
So did you lose that fight? You lost your second one?
I lost my second amateur fight, and I rematched the guy for my third amateur fight, and he kicked my ass again. But I went to decision. I gave up after the first round,
right.
the first time, and then when I rematched, I lost the decision. But to me, that was a big win.
Yeah, steps in the right direction, isn't it? I think, you know what's funny? I think a lot of the kids these days, they look at the stars of the sport and the 10 times world champions, and they think that they've never experienced defeat or adversity or, having to get up off their ass.
Yeah, they never realize that. So many people always say I'm undefeated. I'm like, what are you talking about? I got a bunch of losses. They just see me at the end of my career beating everyone, and I'm like, that didn't happen overnight.
Yeah, you have to go through all the bad times to get to the good times, don't you? Yeah. What was it? Bernard Hopkins, I think, lost his first professional fight. I think Bernard Hopkins. Yeah. It's not where you start, it's where you finish, though, isn't it?
That's very true. Very true.
And you say you were a third degree black belt, a third dan black belt when you were at 15 years old?
15 years old.
Wow.
I really don't know what that means.
Is that something that motivated you early days? Belts and grades and...
Yeah, of course. I always wanted to be the highest. But then once I found fighting, I realized that's what I wanted to do. It was different. It was different because it was also because I wasn't good at it too. Like I was like, I want to be good at this. I want to be tough.
Yeah. And who were the fighters at the time that you can remember, inspirational fighters at the time that were doing well in full contact in New York? So
my first amateur fight, there was a guy there, and he was wrapping hands, and my instructor said to me, he goes, "See that guy?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "He's a world champion." And I go, "He's a world champion." He was a small dude, and his name was Devin Cormack. So that day I said, "I'm gonna fight that dude." I wound up fighting that dude down the line. I wound up beating him a bunch of times.
Wow.
Yeah. But from that day, I'm like, that guy's a world champion. I want to be a world champion. And I remember, and I started studying that guy's videos. And then, sure as anything, years down the road, I was fighting that guy.
Wow. And what about like the legends of the sport? Like back in the day, we used to be looking up to the Benny the Jets and, the Peter Sugarfoot Cunninghams. And like, they're not too far from you, are they?
No. Back, you know what it is? Back in the day, it was Chuck Norris is known as the real fighter, and then Jean-Claude Van Damme was known as everyone's hero.
Yeah.
Even though he can't fight, but he was known as everyone's hero.
Yeah. True that. And boxing experience? Did you have any boxing experience? Amateur boxing back in the day?
I had 3 amateur boxing fights. So when I switched trainers from Tom and Gargiulo to Chris Cardona, and when I switched over to Chris, I said, "Hey, I want to box." And he goes, "Yeah?" I go, "Yeah, I want to box." He goes, "Well, the Golden Gloves coming up, so let's do it." So I wound up entering the Golden Gloves. I had no experience at all boxing. I wound up winning my first 2 fights, and then my third fight, which was the semifinals, I wound up losing a 3-2 decision. They have 5 judges in amateur boxing. It was a bogus decision, but it is what it is. I didn't really know the rules. Like the newspaper said I should have won because they give you they count clean punches. So the 2 judges that had me winning by 11 punches and 9 punches. And then the 3 judges that had him winning was 1 punch, and 2 punches. So,
right. Yeah. Wow. And did that spur you on aspirations for the boxing, or was your heart in the kickboxing?
My heart was always in boxing. As growing up as a kid, me and my dad always watched boxing together, so I always wanted to be a boxer. Being a boxer I always wanted to be a boxer. I regret everything I did in my whole career. I regret being too stubborn and not having... Chris was my trainer, but he was also my manager when I signed a boxing contract, and that was not the smartest thing I did. And I regret that because my heart, I'm too stubborn and I'll fight anyone. But when I signed that boxing contract, I should have been fighting bums. I should have been fighting bums. Yeah. I wound up fighting Genius Mendez, who went on to be the IBF super featherweight world champion. He was trained, when I fought him, he was trained by Floyd Mayweather Sr. And he was in the Ring magazine for Top Prospect. Like, I should never been fighting a guy who was in the Dominican Republic Olympic team. He had 384 amateur boxing fights. I should never been fighting that guy. But to me, you ask me to fight, I'm fighting.
Who was your favorite boxers coming through?
Coming up was Oscar De La Hoya and Toro Gotti. Those are always my favorite boxers.
Did you try and model yourself on any of those guys?
Always. Always. I always wanted to jab like Oscar De La Hoya. Never worked, but I always wanted to.
And the fighting heart, obviously, of a Toro Gatti, you couldn't miss, could you? Thunder Gatti.
Yeah, of course.
So back to your kickboxing. We're going to be jumping all over the place, but back to your kickboxing. When did you have your first title fight experience? Was it as a junior or a senior?
It was junior. Well, I was 17, and like, see, in America, they don't do that. It was all senior. So once I don't know how it goes in England, but once you're 15, that's it. You're senior.
Deep end.
Yeah, you're deep end. So I won my first amateur belt when I was 16, and then won an amateur world title when I was 17.
Wow. Who was that against? Can you remember?
Guy's name was Donald Rodriguez. I went to his home state, and I won a 5-round decision against him. How
did that feel?
Oh, it was crazy. You know, I was literally 17 years old. I was still in high school. I was like, oh my God, I'm such a badass. You know, it was awesome. It was an amazing feeling.
So we are the thing is, with kickboxing, it's very insular, isn't it? Like, the American public don't really know what's going on in the UK. The UK public don't know what's going on in America. We don't know what's going on in France, etc., etc. But you've fought a lot of UK fighters. Like, a lot of UK fighters when I was looking into it over the years, and could have been fighting a few more if the fights did not fall through. A lot of your fights, so I'm going to just go run through a few names of UK fighters that I think that you fought for, and just if you could tell us a little bit about your memories of the fights, or the fighters, or the build up to the fight, any stories that you got. So let's start off with Sean Boom Boom Burton.
Sean Burton. So I was engaged to get married, and I wound up falling through, and I didn't get married. So what's the first thing you do when you don't get married? Hey, let me defend my world title belt. Okay. I won the world title belt. I was getting married. I was going to actually retire. I was totally going to retire. Didn't get married. I said, hey, I want to defend my world title. So they got Sean Boom Boom Burton. So now I was with my ex-fiance for years. So she was always in my corner. So now this is the first fight without her. And I remember being in the dressing room, and I go to Chris, I go, I got to go to the bathroom. And Chris goes, all right, I'll take one glove off. And I go, nah, I got to take it up. You got to, I'm so nervous. And he had to take both gloves off. I was like crapping my brains out before I fought him. The worst is, like, I always play that, you know, there's a fine line between confident and cocky. I like to play that line, be right on that line. So I come out, everyone thinks I'm just cocky, you know. My lips turn purple after the first round. Chris is like, you need to relax. I couldn't breathe. You know, and I don't know if it had to do with Sean or just had to do with defending my world title. It was so much. And then in the second round, I started feeling relaxed, and I started finding a home for all my shots. But yeah, that first round was, oh my God, my whole lips were purple. It was crazy.
And did you know anything about Sean going into that fight? Did you know about his strengths or his weaknesses?
Well, I picked Sean. We picked Sean Burton for a reason. We picked him because we thought we were fighting Gary Hamilton next.
Okay,
so we picked Sean. The plan was defend against Sean. Well, see if we could defend against Sean. If we have a good outing, then fight Gary. That was the plan back then. You're talking years ago. That was always the plan.
How did the fight end with you against Sean?
I stopped him in the 4th round with body shots.
Body shots. Sean was always a little shy around the body, wasn't he?
Yes, big time. Yep.
Great fighter, big puncher, but it seemed to be like you find his body, you find his weakness.
Correct, 100%. 100%.
Another great fighter from the UK, Robbie Johnson.
Oh my God. First off, I fought a lot of guys. Michael Robbie Johnson, probably one of the nicest guys I ever met.
Yeah, 100%.
Good guy. He wound up taking a fight. I was making all the title defense, and he wound up taking the fight on like 3 weeks notice or 4 weeks notice. Of course, we'll go with Richard Waller. I'm intertwining these two because they go intertwined. Richard Waller wound up beating me the fight before. Beat me by a split decision. This story I tell right now, I'm going to get back to Michael Robbie Johnson, but I'm going to go with Richard Waller. And okay. The reason I'm going to go with Richard Waller is I don't want to bash people. I don't really particularly like him at all. A real lot, I really don't like him. I don't like him as a person. And there's reasons why I don't like him as a person. As a man, what I did to get the rematch, I did as a man. And what he did was not a man thing. So he beat me fair and square. I thought I won, but he won. Hey, he won a split decision. More power to him. Now, as the champion, I keep the belt, and they mail him a new belt. Yeah. They wound up mailing him a crap belt. So I understand his frustrations. He was super frustrated, and I understand that. But that's not my fault. They mailed him a crap belt.
That's a governing body thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So in order for him, which I had a rematch clause in the contract, in order for him to agree to rematch me, he said, mail me your belt. So, like any real champion, fucking put my belt in a package, mailed it over to England.
Wow.
And sure as anything, thinking that's goodwill on we'll get a rematch, he backs out. And to me, I'm like, then mail me back my belt. Because technically, Richard Waller has my original belt right now. You know, and I never got it back. So
no way.
You know, as years go on, I'm not as angry. I was angry, real angry for a long time.
Yeah. So the fight never materialized after that point?
It never happened. So they brought in Michael Robbie Johnson, and we fought for the vacant belt. And you know, nothing against, like, obviously I was on my game when I fought Michael Robbie Johnson. I wound up beating him by 12-round decision, but it was great. It was a great performance by me. I was really on top of my game for that one. I was mentally getting ready for Richard Waller, so I was ready. But
Michael Robbie Johnson, one of the most technical fighters out there. So to decision Michael, you did well there. That's a really good decision on paper.
Michael Robbie Johnson, very crafty. He was you know, he fought Gary Hamilton to a split decision, which is crazy. So, you know, after that, I believe on 2 scorecards, it was a zip, 120, 108, and then 119 to 109.
Right.
So, yeah, so I won pretty convincingly. But, Michael Robbie Johnson, just great athlete, great fighter, and great person. Hands down, he's a good dude.
Isn't it funny, like, sometimes you hate the fighter, but you like the person, and then other times you hate the person, but you got to give them props as being a great fighter, and then other times it's like you hate the fighter and you hate the person. So you and Richard aren't on each other's Christmas card list then?
Going back to Richard Waller actually did drop me, and they called it a slip. And I'm man enough to admit he did drop me with a right hand, and they called it a slip. Doesn't change how I feel about him, but he did knock me down. I'll give him that.
Wow. So he took your belt off you and didn't give you a chance to redeem yourself.
You know what? That's what gets on my nerves. It's just the fact that he said in order to sign the contract, he wanted me to mail the belt to him. So I mailed my physical belt to him. So that's my first ever professional world title I have. Well,
Did the governing bodies replace that belt? Have you got that belt now? Or have you got a belt?
No, I don't even have that belt back.
No way.
Don't even have that belt back, yeah.
You know what? That makes me want to put on a show and get you over here and phone Richard Waller and say, guys, we got to get, this is unfinished business.
It's crazy, you know what? And it's just like, you know what? Styles make fights, and his style, my style, you know, I want to say he has my number, but it wasn't even that good of a fight, to be honest. It was just like, you know? And it was funny because they read the one scorecard, and it was like 118 to something. And I remember looking at Chris and I go, God, they gave me 10 rounds and they go for the blue corner. I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, oh
No
my
way.
God.
And that was in New York, wasn't it? That fight.
That was in New York. Yeah.
Wow. So did Richard retire after that?
He retired and then came back later on. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But never mentioned your name again.
No, never
Man.
crossed paths. Yeah. And I'm just gonna say this for the record right now. It's not that I don't like people, but we did offer. When Richard pulled out, we did offer to fight his friend. If you said his name, I'd be like,
Simon Akupo.
We offered to fight Simon instead, and they turned it down.
Wow.
I wanted to fight either one of them.
Just to get that belt back.
just to get my belt back. But as I said, as time goes on, it's all kind of water under the bridge now. You know, you gotta remember that was 2000. That's 2011. Yeah, so you're talking a long time.
As a fighter, living it there and then, it's the most important thing in the world. It's more important than your family. It's more important than your missus. You want your belt back.
Yes, 100%
I get that.
true.
Another fighter that we've had lots of run-ins with over the years, Ronnie the Shark Clark.
Tough guy. I think it's of a fight that I had so many fights, and like, I don't mean to sound this and be like, oh my God, I have so many fights. I have so many fights that everyone always talks about. That there was a lot of headbutts in that fight, and we fought with Mexican Everlast, and those gloves are worse than Reyes gloves. So it's just knuckles. So with headbutts and knuckles, Ronnie Clark rearranged my face. I'll give it to him. People think because he rearranged my face, he won the fight. There's no way he won the fight. You know, I won the decision, and there's no way he won the fight. Like, people always argue. People in New York are like, he won the fight. And I'm like, bro, those are headbutts followed by punches. It is what it is. You know, these gloves are basically knuckles. It is what it is. You know, I won the fight.
Was that a split or was that unanimous?
I believe that was a split. I
Okay.
believe it was a split. This goes back. It's funny. You never watch your wins. You only watch your losses. I have never watched the video of that fight.
You were comfortable. The final bell rang, and you were comfortable that you'd won the fight.
Yeah, I was comfortable. I won the fight. I didn't think I lost the fight. You know, he's definitely a tough guy. Like I said, I was giving it to him. He was giving it to me. Definitely a really good boxer, and southpaw. That's what the problem was. Southpaw versus southpaw. We kept clashing heads the whole night.
Yeah, clash of styles. I mean, we've had some fights with Ronnie, with Kazim, over the years, and it's like, this is a good example. I really rate Ronnie, great fighter, skills for days, big hitter, big puncher. But I don't know, it's like he can't lose a fight. There's always a reason or an excuse or not my kind of people. Always, yeah. Very hard to deal with. Must be that Scottish people. So going on to another Scottish fighter, and I have to say, this is one of those ones that we were glued to the internet. The night you fought Sam Allen, who's I believe he was the ISK world champion. You were the WK, and you were fighting in a unification title fight in Scotland. Yeah, in Scotland. I gotta be honest, best shape of my life, best shape of my career was to fight Sam Allen. What we thought was gonna happen and what happened, totally two different things. So I gotta be honest, after watching Sam Allen and Michael Robbie Johnson fight. Wow, what a fight. It was, man. What an epic war. So me and Chris were under the impression, this is going to be a war. This is going to be Rock'em Sock'ems. Who has the bigger heart is going to win the fight.
And the exact opposite happened that night. And on myself, I hate myself for what happened that night. You know, everything was there. I remember warming up, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm knocking this dude out tonight. 100% I'm knocking this dude out. Got in the ring. I knew the crowd was going to be crazy for him. I was all amped up. I'm like, I'm stopping this guy inside 4 or 5 rounds. And then the bell rang, and the first 30 seconds, I knew it was not going to be the fight I thought it was. To Sam Allen's credit, this guy kept a 12-round game plan. Every second of that 12 round, he kept to his game plan. And at one point, I kept putting my hands down and sticking my head out, you know, for him to punch me, and he wouldn't buy into it. Every time I got close to him, he'll grab me. He'll throw, you know, a boot sweep, a kick, a jab. Boot sweep, kick, jab, the whole fight. So finally, I kept saying to my trainer, what do I do? I'm like, so my trainer goes, just stand there with your hands down, see what happens. I said, all right. The bell rings, this is the 10th round. I go to the neutral corner. I put my hands down. I stand in the neutral corner. Sam Allen goes to the other side and puts his hands down, does the same thing. I go, oh my God. The referee goes, you gotta fight. So I go to the ref. I go, I've been trying to fight. I don't know what to do anymore. And Michael Robbie Johnson was actually the commentator. So every time I went back to the corner, I kept telling him, can you go in the dressing room and get my running shoes? You know, people from, you know, from New York kept texting me when I got out from the fight. They kept saying congratulations. It cut off before the decision. They thought I won because I chased them around. I'm like, I wouldn't even want to win like that. It was just, but he kept to his game plan. He really did. You gotta give him credit for that. He kept to his game plan. He didn't break that game plan once.
And was there ever talk of a rematch between you and Sam?
You know how it goes. There's a million talks of a rematch. Always fell through. Always issue with something. You know how it goes.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of billed as being a super fight, a unification, which you don't get often in kickboxing. And probably the fight didn't live up to the expectation. But what a result from Sam! Wow.
It didn't live up to anything. But like I said, as time goes on, more credit to him. He kept to that game plan, and you gotta give him credit. I mean, 12 rounds, the dude did not break his game plan once. Yeah. He kept to the game plan, and yeah, that game plan. Yeah, clearly I sucked at that.
You back to your points days, looking for the shots.
Yeah, just I was looking for anything. I was like, oh man, just it was so disturbing. And like, I remember leaving, and I'm like, oh my God, I trained so hard, and I didn't even get punched in the face.
No way. So that was a long flight home.
It was a long flight home, very depressing, that's for sure.
And two fighters that you didn't tussle with, but your name was linked to them on numerous occasions. Gary Hamilton from Ireland, and obviously our own Kazim Nadreem Beg.
Yeah, so I have a lot of stories about both those guys. We'll go with Kazim first. Oh my God, we're going back to Richard Waller. Richard Waller jumped in for Kazim.
Yeah,
I was supposed to fight Kazim, and Kazim broke his nose. And this is the one thing that drives me crazy. I hate when people always say to me like, "Oh, they think I lost to Ronnie Clark," or they think this. I'm like, to the end of the day, I fought everyone and didn't duck and dodge anyone. I was always willing to fight everyone. And a lot of guys are not like that. A lot of guys duck and dodge everyone. But of course, I was game to fight Kazim. I was to defend the world title. He wound up breaking his nose. And then the craziest thing is...
If I could just stop you, he actually broke his nose in the fight before that against Craig Carter, who was a training partner of Michael Robbie Johnson. Small world.
It's all crazy, all intertwined.
Yeah.
Intertwined. but he broke his nose. That fight fell through. If you fast forward to last year, I was coming out of retirement to fight two people. Those two names you said, either one. Yeah. And I asked Gary first, and Gary said no. So Kasim was it. And we were training to fight Kasim. And then obviously things happened.
And then Kazim lost?
Yeah, and then he lost. And then I wound up going up in weight, fighting for the welterweight world title, yeah.
Wow, that would have been some fight. I think when the first fight between you and Kazim was muted, like Kazim, I think he'd beaten Ronnie Clark. He was a British champion. It would have been a big step up for Kazim, traveling to the States and taking you on. I think at that point in your careers, the inexperience of Kazim would have made that a great fight. And I think when the fight was muted for this year, I think probably Kaz would have been the favourite because he was the man with the momentum and you were coming out of retirement.
Yep, he definitely would. Yeah.
Destiny kept you apart, Bobby.
It's crazy. It's crazy the way things work. And it's as a fighter, and like I said, I don't duck or dodge anyone. There's only two people I didn't fight. And it's Kasim and it's Gary Hamilton. And those are the only two people I never shared a ring with, that are out of the best guys in the world. Those two I didn't get to share a ring with.
So tell us about the Gary Hamilton saga. How early in your career was that fight mentioned? You say back when you fought Robbie?
Well, back in 2008, it was mentioned on, you remember the Axe Kickboxing message board?
Oh, yeah. I remember that well.
Yeah, so Gary Hamilton actually said to me, I challenged him on the message board. I was young. I didn't know what was going on and challenged him. Everyone was talking about how good he is. And he said, no offense, I don't know who you are, Bobby. And from that day on, I said, mark my word, this dude didn't know who I am.
Yeah.
From that on 2008, I was like, this guy didn't know who I am. He knows who I am very well now. But from that day on, I realized I was only known in the US. I wasn't known worldwide. So if anything, Gary Hamilton really boosted my career because I really wanted to be well known by everyone then.
How many times was you and him linked to potentially fight?
I challenged Gary Hamilton about 9 zillion times. Probably more than that. I challenged Gary Hamilton so many times. I had his picture on my mirror for years.
That's girls the proper Rocky Apollo or Rocky Drago thing going on.
You have to remember, I'm in my 20s. Girls will come over to my apartment and be like, why do you got a picture of a dude on your mirror? And I have to explain, I want to fight that dude. And it's just like, and they're like looking at me like, okay, weirdo. Yeah.
Wow.
But we were set to fight twice. One time is the only fight in my career I ever backed out. I tore my labrum, and I was there to fight Gary Hamilton, one arm and a broken toe. So one arm and one foot, and I was still gonna fight him. And then the pain started getting so bad, and I was getting beat up by guys who should not be beating me up. So I couldn't move. And finally backed out, and it was the only fight I ever backed out. And like a part of me wish I would have just fought him and got beat up, and I would be like, I would have shared a ring with him now.
So you look back at the Kazim, and you like that's a tangible thing why those fights never happened. The broken nose, which put Kaz out for nearly 3 years, and then secondly he obviously got beat, and that fight was off the table. Why didn't the Gary Hamilton fight? Obviously that one time because of your injury.
And then it was supposed to happen on a card in England, which I didn't understand. It was supposed to happen in England, and then that fell through, which clearly I'm like, why would a guy from America fight a guy from Ireland, England? But I was like, that fell through, made no sense. And then we were supposed to fight one more time in New York, and personal reasons between me and Chris, and that's kind of where me and Chris took a bump, and things didn't go. I was set to fight Gary, and he was the promoter, and everyone was left out, and no one knew what was going on, and all of a sudden the show was off, and we had no clue what was going on. Did you ever
speak to Gary privately behind the scenes?
Yeah. I speak to Gary almost all the time. I challenge Gary to this day. I still challenge Gary to a fight. Yeah, let me tell you something. When Gary pops in my DMs, I'm always like, "You want me to start training?" And just talk about something.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not fighting? You don't want to fight? He told me one time he's getting ready to make a comeback. So I said, "Well, wait." He goes, "No, not against you, against someone else." And I'm like, "What? No, you fight." So, to this day, now we just joke. It's clearly never gonna happen.
Super guy, though. Super guy, amazing fighter. I mean, Gary, if you're out there listening to this, we want you on Kickboxing Life Stories too.
That dude is, oh my God. Sometimes I wonder why I even want to fight that dude, because that dude is a beast. Just like,
isn't that the measure of a man as well? Like sometimes I had this conversation with Kazim in the gym this week, and it's like, you're desperate for the Liam Alford rematch, the one guy that's beat him. And there's a lot of people that would say that Kaz is like over the hill and on the slide now against this young, hungry lion. It's like, as a fighter, would you not want to test yourself like that, even if you come up short? Is that something that you can live with?
I tell people this all the time. I say, when I fight, I'd rather be the underdog and I'd rather be scared shit. And people go, "Why you want to be scared?" I said, when I'm scared, I fight better. My chin's down, my hands are up, I'm paying attention to what's going on. If I'm not scared, why even fight?
Yeah.
I enjoy being scared. I think scared makes you a better fighter.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's hard to motivate yourself in training camp to get to squeeze out that last little bit of work, and if you feel like your opponent isn't gonna make you tap into that.
And the funniest thing is, Kasim fought on my son's birthday. So it's my son's birthday, we're playing, and I'm trying to watch the fight. And I'm trying to watch it on my phone. And my girlfriend's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I have to watch this fight. So now I'm like listening to it.
Yeah.
And he's winning. So I'm like, he's winning, whatever. And all of a sudden I'm like, what just happened? So now I'm going around the house and I'm like, oh my God. And my girlfriend's like, I don't understand what's the big deal. I'm like, this is a huge deal. I said, I started training coming out of retirement for him. No one else.
Isn't it crazy? I think that the fight was in August, and I think you and him were supposed to dance in October.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. It's funny because like we didn't mention the Bobby Campbell versus Kazim fight, out of respect for Liam and everything else. Yeah. But wow. It's they don't want us in America, clearly. I don't know why, they just don't want us in America.
That's what it must be. It's crazy. Like you said, everything's meant to be, though. Everything happens for a reason.
So who would you say, if you had to narrow it down, who was the very best fighter you fought?
So I always say this, it never changes, and people always think it's going to change. It's never going to change. It's going to be a guy named Tommy Bach, and I fought him 3 times, and he is a straight killer. And I fought him 3 times, and he is without a doubt. And I seen him beat he was on that Chuck Norris World Combat League. I seen him beat the crap out of everyone. He was the real deal.
And did you get 3 decisions off him?
So I fought him on my first professional world title fight ever, and I wound up dropping him twice. And then he got up and dropped me all in one round. Round 7, 3 knockdowns. I kicked his ass. It was in his home state. He wound up winning. Wound up being a 12-round draw. He said to me, he's like, "You won." We wound up doing a rematch again in his hometown. He wound up winning the decision, and then I wound up defending my world title against him down the line, and I wound up shutting him out in the old scorecards.
And that was the end of the story. Then there was never that rubber match never happened.
That was it. Yep. Then because he knew he was a man, and he knew he lost the first one. I knew I beat him the first one. The second one he won clearly. So the third one was kind of like, even though it was a draw, the first one, we knew it was 1-1 going into the third one.
He was the best fighter you feel like he ever fought, the most rounded fighter?
Best fighter, kicks, punches, best fighter. He was also a pro boxer. He was good. He was the real deal. He was tall for that weight class. He was real deal.
And what about the hardest fight you ever had, or the hardest fight that you were involved in? Who would you say that was against?
The hardest fights, it was always that guy Tommy Bach. We mixed well. We fought 36 rounds together. We mixed very well together, or very bad together. I'm not sure you want to put it.
Yeah.
We like
good for the fans, not so good for you too.
Yeah.
Do you still speak to Tommy to this day?
Very rarely, but I do talk to him every once in a while on Facebook. Yeah.
Wow.
Then Alan Champay. Do you remember him from? He was from Switzerland. He was the ISK world champion.
You actually traveled to fight him, didn't you?
Yeah.
Did you go to Switzerland to fight him?
Yeah, I went to Switzerland. I fought him when I was young. We lost the split decision. Home country. I honestly didn't think the fight was close at all. But he wound up. He kicked so hard. This guy wound up getting chips off my forearm, off my bone. 4 chips floating. Right now, 2 of them went back, and 2 of them still float in my arm.
No way.
He kicked really hard, that dude. I don't think he was like the best, but he kicked so hard, that guy.
And you just fought him once in Switzerland, yeah?
Just once in Switzerland, that was it. I don't even know if he ever fought after that. That was it.
What was your final fight record? Can you remember?
As a pro, it was 38 wins, 5 losses, 1 draw.
Wow. Yeah. As an amateur before that?
As an amateur, I was 17-6. Yeah, and I had 3 amateur boxing fights. I was 2-1.
So that's some career, man.
Altogether, I think I had close to 80 fights. Yeah.
So what would you say was the highest high of your career, and of course, in contrast, the lowest low?
The highest high was I wound up defending my WK title belt, world title belt, 5 times in 24 months.
Wow.
I feel like I was just in my prime at that time. That was it. And I was fighting all top guys. It wasn't like I was fighting yo-yos. I was fighting top guys. Mm-hmm. That was it. That was definitely the highest point. And then I lost to Richard Waller. That was I would say from 2009 to 11. That was it. Just cleaning house. So, I was making a name, just running through everyone.
And what was your lowest low?
Man, the Sam Allen fight hurt bad. It hurt bad. It hurt. It hurt bad for so many reasons. I think I would have been happier getting knocked out. Being knocked out cold, I would have been a lot happier with. It was just the way the fight unfolded. It just stung. Being in the best shape of my career was that fight, and I didn't do anything. Nothing happened that fight. It wasn't even a fight. So that was probably my lowest.
So here's one for you. If you could rewind, jump in the time machine, go back to that night, is there anything that you could have done differently, or was Sam just playing his part perfectly? I
replayed a fight a million times in my head. I don't know why. Like I said, I kept sticking my chin out. I should have just literally jumped on him. Like, not a care in the world. He knocked me out. Just literally jump on him. Try to close the gap, and eventually get so close to him that I have to hit him.
Yeah.
And not worry about it. I respected his right hand, and that's what made the fight so bad, I think. I should have never gave him respect on his right hand. I didn't care about his kicks. I respected his right hand, even though he was like his rear leg kick knocked out the French champion.
Yeah,
I was nervous. I was only nervous about his right hand, and I respected it too much. I should have said, "Screw it, knock me out. At least we're fighting."
Yeah.
I regret that moment. I regret that. It was a long 12 rounds that honestly nothing happened. Like, I can't even imagine watching it because I was in it and I didn't even want to be in it.
Have you got that fight? Have you got it?
I have yet to watch it. It's like crazy. Like, sometimes I haven't watched a lot of my fights at the end of my career. It's funny because my girlfriend now, she says to me, she goes, "I can't believe you watch yourself fight." And I watched myself fight when I was younger. I don't watch, I'm like, I get like mad. I'm like, I suck.
Maybe it's one for the rocking chair when you're an old man and you know you're not going to be as judgmental of your performance. At the minute, you still probably could get back in there and do it again. I think when you completely hang up those gloves, there's no chance whatsoever. You don't even spar anymore. I think that's the day that you're going to look back on them and appreciate how good you were.
Yeah, the problem is hanging up the gloves is a lot harder than it seems.
Yeah. So we never are we saying never say never?
Well, we are saying that I turned 40 this October, and I am doing a exhibition match for my birthday. So,
yeah,
you never know. I actually fought in October, and I went up to welterweight and I fought, and the guy who I fought was this guy Jason Hines. Oh my God, let me tell you something. I'm not a welterweight. I mean, I won world titles in welterweight. I even won world titles in 154. I am not a welterweight because let me tell you something. I got in the ring and I looked across the ring. I'm like, we are not the same size.
Yeah. Why did you step up to welter? What was the reasoning behind that?
So when the Kaz fight got canceled, we will get a fight for the 142 ISK belt, and then they wanted a legit opponent. So I said, whoever. And they said, well, would you go to welterweight? And I said, I'll do whatever. It don't really matter to me. And like I said, the guy they picked, they're like, he's ranked number 1. We could try to get you the ranked number 2, number 3 guy. And I'm like, no, I'll fight. That's who's ranked number 1. I'll fight him. I don't care. And then, like I said, when I got in that ring, I'm just like, man, I haven't been in this ring in a long time. And I'm a lot smaller than that. He was just a big welterweight.
Wow.
And he was also a southpaw too.
Oh, so man, another southpaw.
Yeah, it was honestly, it was a rough fight, and I started off on fire, but by the 12th round, he wound up dropping me in the 12th round. I got up, but I was so ahead of the scorecards. But at the end of the fight, I don't know what was going through his mind, but he was kind of like waited to 10, 11, 12 to like unload his gas tank. I don't know what was going on because I was cleaning up the scorecards in the beginning. So it was interesting to me. I don't know.
So after that fight, was your mind made up that this was the right time to call it a day?
Yeah, if I didn't get dropped in the 12th round, I would say I still had more. The problem is I got dropped in the 12th round. And I remember getting up and I remember being like, why am I still doing this?
Wow. Moment of clarity.
Yeah, like you think in your head, like you're like, I enjoy this. Like this dude's trying to kill me. And then in my head, I'm like, this is early in the 12th round. Once they say fight, this dude's gonna be all over me. And you sure as anything, he was all over me. Where experience comes, I still have the experience, but in my head, I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be a long 12th round.
So outside of Bobby Campbell, the champion, you've forged a career now, bringing fighters through as an instructor and a coach. When did this journey begin for you?
So I opened up a gym. Like I said, I was engaged, when I was young, and she told me I had to go to college. So I went to college and I got my associate's degree, and I transferred. And they gave me a bill. They gave me the bill, and the bill was too much money. So I was like, screw this. She goes, no, transfer to this other school. I transferred to the other school. They go, we're only going to take half your credits. I said, I was 23 years old. I said, screw this. I'm opening up a gym. Just like that, open up the gym. That was it.
Wow.
And, I was at a crossroads in my life. I was 23 years old. They only took half my credits. I was like, I was going to be a gym teacher. That's what I was going to school for. And I'm like, I ain't doing this. And I opened up a gym when I was 23. I got to be honest. The gym was run like a 23-year-old fighter who ran the gym not worrying about money and just was kind of like, it's a fight club.
Yeah.
And the gym was real hardcore, and like people still talk about it. When I first opened the gym, it was sparring every night, and it was 100%. No pitter patter. It was 100%. Everyone got knocked out, cut, bloody. And then a guy said to me, an older guy, he said, "Hey, as one businessman as the other businessman, he owned a sign shop, and he said to me, the way you let people get beat up here, not good for business. You want to build these people up. And I'm like, nah. And then when I realized that guy was telling me the truth, that not everyone's a fighter.
Yeah.
It took me years to realize that.
But most fighters, without being disrespectful to them, because I'm one myself, we got zero business acumen. It's all about like keeping it real, just keeping it real. But yeah, I think the penny drops at a certain point, doesn't it? And it's like, hold up, there's got to be a better way of doing this.
Yes. It took me years to realize. The older I got, the more I realized, hey, this is a business, and it's about making money for a living. Like it's not about how many tough guys you got in the gym. It's about let's have everyone in the gym.
Yeah, it's not a dirty word either, is it? Like making money out of something that you've been doing since the age of 4 years old. Like, you you'd qualify to be a brain surgeon quicker than your journey.
Yeah, I mean, I love the gym. It's my favorite place to be. And, I met so many great people. I had so many great fighters come in and out of the gym. So it's amazing, it really is. It's great to me. It's honestly, it's the best thing that I was able to make a career off of something I love.
Yeah. And how's the gym doing now since COVID? Has it bounced back?
Since COVID, we bounced back even more. Since COVID, a funny story is the karate school that I went to when I was 4 years old, they closed during COVID. So guess what? I took them over. I brought them over. So the karate school that I originally started with closed their doors, and I brought them over. So now they run in my gym.
Full circle, huh? That's karma. That is karma. Yeah. They've looked after you, and now you're looking after them.
Yeah, it's funny.
And Bobby Campbell, the promoter, you kind of done it all, haven't you, Bobby? I mean, tell us a little bit about Jackhammer Promotions, your vision.
Oh man, Jackhammer Promotions. Let me tell you something. When someone first told me, I had a partner years ago, and when I first started in 2009, he said to me, he came up to me and said, can we run a show together? We'll be partners. I said, sure, that sounds so cool. I needed a place to put my fighters. At the time, I was putting 8 guys on one show and then matching them up on someone else's show. Then I realized, wait, I could put 8 guys on my own show, match them up, and I get money for it. So I was like, it was a no-brainer. And then, I fell in love with the shows. It's everything. It's a fight night. It's so cool, And we got to fly people in from, we flew people in from England multiple times. We flew people in from Canada, Argentina, Finland. We flew people in so many different times. So it's great being able to have international fights, because a lot of times in USA they don't have international fights. They always say this guy's from Russia. Nah, he lives in the city and he's Russian. Not from Russia. No one picks him up from the airport. Yeah.
And you've got a promotion this weekend, haven't you?
I got a promotion Sunday. Yeah.
So you're not getting any sleep whatsoever right about now?
No sleep at all. Tomorrow morning's weigh-ins. I gotta be honest. We run through so many shows. They get it gets easy. Even like I was telling you before we went on, I had a back out. I want to say a couple hours ago. Someone backed out, but the way the shows go, I'm so used to it. I used to let it phase me. Now it doesn't phase me. Now I'm just like, all right, there's nothing I can do. The guy backed out. I can't magically go tell the guy how to fight. He's not gonna fight.
Well, worry about the things that are within your control, not worry about the things that aren't. Wow. So what would you say brings you the most joy? The fighting, the teaching, or the promoting?
Do you ever watch that show Kingdom?
Yeah.
So that show is great. And there's a part in Kingdom where the main guy, the owner of the gym, they ask him, what does he get more joy about? Fighting or being the trainer? And he explains, what he explains in that episode is spot on. There ain't nothing like being in the ring. Like, you could have the best fighter and you could have the sold out show, but you're the one punching someone in the face and getting punched. Is nothing like that feeling. It's nothing like that feeling. fighting, number one, I always tell people, I'm a fighter. That's the first thing I am. And then I'm a trainer and a promoter.
Do you think exactly what you say there? Do you think that maybe we need to spend a little bit more time with fighters when their career is over? Because it's kind of like from the highest high, they go to the lowest low. If they haven't, especially if they're not still involved in the sport on some level, if you're not an instructor or a coach when you finish fighting, or you're not a promoter, it's like being totally submerged in something, and then all of a sudden it's gone. It's gone. That must be really difficult.
Do you know what's crazy? You know, when I came out of retirement, my girlfriend said to me, I said I really wanted to fight. You know, I wanted to hold my son in the ring. That's what I really wanted to do. And she said, nope, you're doing it for yourself. And I said, partly. And she goes, it's all for yourself. And I said, partly, only part. But in a way, it's a selfish sport that once you're done, you're done. No one cares. No one cares.
That was an important thing. Like I said to you before, that was an important thing about Kickboxing Life Stories, because there's such a big turnaround in martial arts. And 5 years ago, like, there's a lot of people now that Bobby who, Sam who, you know, Kazim who, you get forgotten very quickly, don't you? And your legacy, it's not like boxing where your legacy is there. You know, we have to document this, and we have to tell the new generation coming through, there was somebody before you, there was a team of people before you, and they flew the flag, and they flew it well.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And nowadays, Mick Crossland, great guy, great champion. I actually got to meet him one time. I went to England. He posted something on his social media, and I agree with almost everything of it, except for one main part, which drove me crazy, which I meant to write on his post, which one part drove me crazy. He said, you know, full contact's a dying sport, and I do agree. And he said, well, let's get rid of the pants, let's get rid of the shin pads.
I know what you're going to say.
You know what I'm going to say?
I know what you're going to say.
He goes, let's get rid of the rounds and just do 5 rounds. And I'm like, no, you just killed the whole sport of why full contact kickboxing is so good, and it's the rounds. It's the rounds because it makes it like boxing.
Yeah. And I think as well, those rounds, like the championship rounds, 10, 11, 12, they separate the men from the boys, don't they?
100%. And this is what makes, that's the one thing I had to find that post. Now tonight I'm gonna go back to his page, I'm gonna look on it so I can write that. I agree with him. You know, times change, you know, get rid of the shin pads. The problem is, especially in America, no one wears the shin pads. That's why it's a hard thing. It's easier to sell if I said, hey, no boots, no shin pads, but you guys doing full contact, which I do believe full contact is more clean and it looks more entertaining.
Yeah.
But I do agree the new aspect of this world with the shin pads and stuff. But the rounds, you can never get rid of the rounds. That's what makes full contact kickboxing such a sport like boxing.
Yeah, I think, like, in defense of Mick, I think that Mick looks at the sport and a sport that he loves, and he can see its decline, and it's like, how do we inject some life into this? And they're throwing loads of things at it. You know, we'll wear shorts instead of long pants, we'll wear boots. I think that the problems are more intricate than just attire. You know, I think that a lot of the problems in the sport are the people within the sport, not the actual sport itself. Because you look at the gyms across the UK, and we're heaving. We're absolutely heaving. A lot of full contact style gyms, but it's just not translating onto fight nights for some reason. And if I knew, I would do it myself, but
it's so hard. I always say the problem too is there's too many different rules in kickboxing. You got full contact, you got low kicks, you got K1, you got glory rules, you got Muay Thai, Sanda. If we just had one rule, it would be more popular.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I'm not giving up the ghost on full contact just yet, but answers on a postcard, guys. How do we fix it?
That is true. How do you fix it? I think it's the cleanest kickboxing there is.
Yeah, it's my preferred style. You know, I appreciate K1, but when I used to kickbox way back in the day, it was all about head kicks, spin kicks, side kicks, you know, good integration of hands and legs. It was kicks above the waist, so you had to have a high degree of skill. I don't, for me personally, it's like, if it was about the weapons that you use, the more weapons, the better. Obviously MMA is the way, but for me, I love boxing, and they just use their left hand and their right hand.
Yeah.
You know, so it is very, there is a problem there, and I don't know how to fix it, but I'm with you. I don't think it's a case of, you know, shorten the rounds and make it more like K1. It's not for me.
Yeah. No, it's true. It is true. It sucks because it is such a good sport. It's a beautiful sport.
So anyway, let's get back to Bobby Campbell. Looking back, what's the thing that makes you most proud looking back on your martial arts career? What's your proudest moment?
Man, that's a good question. It's crazy because you could be like, I heard this 10 times already in this one interview. My biggest moment is beating Tommy Bach.
Your first pro world title.
Well, yeah, no, well, I lost, draw, lost, and then I wound up defending my belt when I won.
Right.
But it was just, that guy just seemed to be like, you know, I just could never get him. So I finally got him, and out of everyone I ever fought, I remember telling my ex-fiance at the time, I said, I'll fight anyone but this guy, Tommy Bach. She goes, who's Tommy Bach? Go, he's a weight class above me, and he keeps knocking everyone out. And I was, you know, working with Chris. So Chris gets a phone call, and sure as anything, it's them calling about if I want to fight Tommy Bach. He gets off the phone and goes, you want to fight a guy named Tommy Bach? I said, sure. I didn't even hesitate, even though I just said, you know, a couple weeks ago, I don't want to fight that guy. But I was like, sure.
Finally climbing that mountain and getting a win over him. Proudest moment.
Yeah, proudest moment, yeah.
And we've touched on a few of these questions earlier on in the interview. Any regrets?
My biggest regret is my professional boxing career. As you know, as many people know, Chris Archeri was my sparring partner, and you know, I turned pro boxing before Chris did, and then Chris turned pro boxing. Chris was managed. He was managed very well, and I'm not saying Chris is great fighter. He's better than me, but I'm just saying I was not managed right, and I really feel like that messed up my pro boxing career. Am I dreaming this? Did you fight on Miguel Cotto's undercard? I fought on Miguel Cotto undercard twice.
Whoa!
Twice. Yeah. So I fought on ESPN Wednesday Night Fights. I met Joe Frazier. I got to do some great things in boxing, but if I was managed better, I would have been 10-0 before I fought anyone good. You know, and that's the one thing that always got to me, because I could have made some money. I'm not saying I would have been a world champion. I'm saying I could have done a little bit better, you know.
See, on one hand, when you say that you fought at the Garden as well, didn't you?
Yeah.
So, on one hand, like fighting on Miguel Cotto's undercard twice, fighting at the Garden, wow. But on the other hand, what were you doing fighting on Miguel's undercard and fighting at the Garden as an inexperienced pro? Yeah,
because like I said, if you said, hey, you want to fight? Hell yeah, I want to fight.
Yeah.
Like I was fighting these guys, and he had, you know, undefeated pro boxing records, and it had 1 million amateur boxing fights. I just, you know, I did it wrong, you know? I did it wrong, and I regret that. If I could go back in time, I would have fought bums and would have made me a better name, and then who knows, I would have got my ass kicked by someone else, but at least I would have been 10-0 before I fought anyone good.
Yeah. So probably your biggest weakness as a fighter is not knowing how to say no.
Yes, I never said no to any. If they challenged me to a fight, I never said no. When I was an amateur, I remember I was in Rhode Island, my friend was fighting, and they said, yo, we need a guy who's 135 pounds. I was 115 at the time. I said, I'll fight. And they go, what do you weigh? I'm like, 115. I'll weigh him in all my clothes. Weighed him in all my clothes. And I wound up fighting the 135-pound guy. I wound up losing the decision, but I was like, I didn't care. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
So,
well, at least when the books close, you can honestly say that you feared nobody and you fought everybody.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, fair play. So since retiring from fighting, I'm looking behind you, so I'm scared to ask this question. What fills your time? What do you end up doing?
Behind me is what me and my son do. We make YouTube videos of vintage toys. That's what we do.
How cool.
This is I'm in my son's playroom right now. So is where I always do my videos, in my son's playroom. Yeah. So it's probably the only. Now he's almost 4 years old. He gets it now. He's funny. Like when we first started doing these videos about 2 years ago, he didn't talk. Now he makes fun of me in the videos, and he knows what's going on. So it's a lot better. And I honestly enjoy it, and it's probably the silliest thing in the world, but I really do enjoy it.
You know what you were saying earlier on about you wanted to come back so that you could hold your son in the ring, and your girlfriend said, "No, this is for you. This isn't for your son." Is all of this for your son, or is it for you, Bobby? Tell the truth now. This is Kickboxing Life Stories. Tell the truth.
It's definitely for me, reliving my childhood, 100%. Yeah.
Which one's your top figure there, Bobby?
I don't even know, but definitely the Rocky one. I mean, you got to go. My son's name is Rocky.
Wow.
Not Rocco, Rocky. His mother is Italian and wanted an Italian name, and his grandfather's name is Rocco. So she goes, "We can't go Rocco. How about Rocky?" I said, "No argument there. We go Rocky."
Yeah, you could be involved in worse pastimes. You know what? All these retiring fighters that have got nothing to do and they've got nowhere to go. You need to introduce them to the toys market.
That's it. Introduce them to the toys. That's it.
So, plan for the future, Bobby?
Like I said, this September or November I'm gonna do an exhibition, and then that hopefully is the last time I ever step foot and punch someone in the face inside a ring. I really hope so. But then again, I turned 40. That, to me, you're done at 40.
Yeah. It doesn't get any better at 40, does it? It's your best days are behind you at that point. Yeah,
big time.
So you've ticked like a lot of boxes, since 4 years old. You've taken your gradings, you've won world titles, numerous times. You're a coach, you're producing great fighters, you're a promoter, you're promoting great fighters. Are all your boxes in the martial arts ticked?
That's a great question. No. The last box I'll have to check would be my son doing an amateur fight.
Go on, yeah.
Yeah. Boxing or kickboxing. At nowadays MMA, I don't even know. But for him to do one amateur fight, that'd be my box.
Have you started to train him yet?
He just started training. He's more into wrestling, which, hey, it is what it is. Because he's actually going to start with a wrestling teacher soon. So it is what it is. But we haven't started karate. We haven't started straight boxing right now.
And that'll be the last box. Nothing after that.
Nothing after that. That's it. The box is done. I mean, Gary Hamilton still. I guess that one's never going to be clicked.
So you've flattened the name.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I feel like hitting Gary Hamilton up now and be like, "Hey, watch my video. I was talking about you. I was talking smack. Maybe you want to fight me now."
Hey, maybe I've stirred it up now. Maybe I've started something. What I'll do is I'll get my next Kickboxing Life Stories with Gary and play you off against each other. We'll get to see that fight.
You should. I mean,
and the winner can fight Kaz.
There you go. I might have 2 more fights left. Oh man.
Hey, what have I started? So Bobby, really important question now. And this is something I ask all the people on Kickboxing Life Stories. Is there one bit of advice you could give to an up-and-coming fighter that's just starting off in the game, that wants to achieve the highest highs like you've done over your career?
This is hard because I don't see it. I don't know if you see it in your gym. I do not see it in my gym. and I hate to admit this, I don't see it in my gym. I don't see anyone up and coming give it their everything, that this is their everything. People say they want to be the next champ, but their actions don't prove it. If you're gonna say you want to be the next champ, then that's it. You dedicate your life to being the next champ. Don't say it so you can put it on Instagram and take a picture of you yourself at the gym. No, you gotta live it. You gotta live it. And a lot of these guys do not live it. They think they live it, but they don't live it. They need to live it.
So many distractions now though that we didn't have when we were fighting.
Well, that's true too. It's a lot more distractions. Yeah. It's a lot more. But I feel like nowadays these fighters, they always say they want to be the champ. And I'm like, no, you don't. Just don't lie to me. You're lying to me. You don't want to be the champ. Nothing about you, the way you walked into the gym, showed you want to be the champ. Nothing about you putting your hand wraps on and hitting the double M bag when no one's talking to you. No, you're too busy on your phone taking a picture of the double M bag and putting it on your storyline to say you're at the gym.
So do you feel like, to a degree, that you're the last of a dying breed?
I really do. And explaining that to people don't understand. People don't understand. You to be the best, you got to be able to beat the best. So to be that, you have to give it your everything. Some of these guys don't do it. They just, everything's about social media.
Yeah. Few and far between walk the walk as well as talking the talk, don't they?
Yeah, big time.
So Bobby, it's been amazing. Wrapping things up, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to or thanks?
Of course I want to give a shout out to my son. It's my pride and my joy. My little boy, Rocky. Other than that, family, my gym, my promotion, we have a bunch of sponsors, but at the end of the day, as you get older, they ain't my sponsors. They're now my show sponsor.
Yeah.
A time change. I don't have to give any shout outs to any of my sponsors because really they're my promotion sponsor now.
Bobby, it's been absolutely amazing and an honor and a pleasure to our first Kickboxing Life Stories international interview. It's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oos.
Oos.